You are listening to the Wildlife Photography Podcast with Rob Reed and Josh Galicki, bringing together the love of nature and photography. Episode 35. We talk about a wider perspective with a special guest. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Wildlife Photography Podcast with me, Rob Reed, and my co-host Josh Galicki. Hey Josh, how's it going?
Hey, good, Rob. How are you? Long time.
Not bad.
It's been about a month.
It has been a very long time. I'm sat here sweltering in the European heat. This heat wave just hits us with about, I don't know, it's been about 34 degrees or whatever it is in Fahrenheit. I don't know.
It's all over the news over here. I mean, it's I hear it's boiling over there. And you don't even have air conditioning, so.
Nope. No, I just got a fan going to try and keep me cool. And I've just come back from Ireland, which was a bit cooler, thankfully. So it was a bit of a shock when I came back on Sunday to something which is sort of 10 or 15 degrees warmer. But yeah. So what have you been up to?
Yeah, I'm trying to shoot here and there. Spring obviously is coming to an end. I mean, we're in summer already. God, time flies for the past couple of weeks. So, my shooting has tailed off over the past couple of weeks. It was a great spring, actually. I was able to get up to Pennsylvania. I did some songbird photography up there. Things have settled down in the area, so I've been mostly photographing breeding birds, osprey. Interesting enough, the osprey, the population's plummeting across the Chesapeake Bay.
Oh, really?
There's a huge dip in menhaden, which is their primary, it's their primary food. They're saying like 90% population crash. It hasn't been this bad since the DDT days. So unfortunately, I haven't been photographing. We normally have an osprey nest in the back. Not much. That nest was abandoned, unfortunately. So herons, some things, turtles. I actually had some river otters the other day. First time I was able to photograph it back here. And it's odd because I don't know much about them, but it's brackish water. So first time I've ever seen them in brackish water before, but that was actually pretty cool. So here and there I've been trying to get out past couple of weeks, but it's slowed down.
Yeah. I mean, it's I guess it's just invertebrates for me really for the next month or two because it's just so hot. I mean, you know what the summer months are like. It's just, if you're photographing songbirds, well, the plumage is all crappy because they've been breeding obviously, and there are not many water birds around. You can go to the coast obviously and get some of the shorebirds and stuff, but yeah, it'll be pretty much for me next couple of months, I guess, invertebrates and stuff. But so just come back from Ireland, not many accessible birds there. In fact, I didn't photograph a single bird when I was there. It wasn't a photography trip, but managed a few orchids. I mean, that was amazing for plants, for wild plants. Excuse me. But apart from that, I've been not really taking the camera out much, to be honest, just recently. But yeah, looking forward to the autumn.
I bet with these temperatures.
Looking forward. Yeah, exactly. It could do with getting a bit cooler, that's for sure. Anyway, today we're joined by a guest. So welcome to Caleb Hoover. Caleb, why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody, a little bit about, who you are, what you shoot, and how you got into photography.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. First of all, I am Caleb Hoover. I do wildlife photography currently I've been living outside of Nashville, Tennessee for the last 3 years or so. Kind of bounce around the East a little bit throughout my life. Do a lot of birds in my wildlife photography, but I do a good bit of my photography, frankly, not at home anymore. It's a lot of photography out and about on travels. Kind of as I'm moving about the world, I find the birds around me, and then that tends to be the bulk of my work nowadays. I tend to my general style has shifted a lot, but I do a lot of work with wider lenses. I don't carry a telephoto with me really anymore, and actually selling off like the last of my telephoto gear. It's just a different shift for me. A lot of evolution in my work, but travel's really kind of been the catalyst for that, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean that's a really interesting thing, isn't it? When you talk about the sort of lens choice and the road that you're going down, it's a very different one for the majority of bird and wildlife photographers.
Most go the other way, right?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what certainly caught Josh's attention with the work that you're posting on Instagram. So Josh, why don't you sort of, because you messaged me about Caleb and said, oh, you need to have a look at this guy's work and we need to get him on the podcast and have a chat to him. So why don't you expand on that a little bit and what really caught your eye?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'll say, Caleb, like especially North American photographers are mostly, Rob and I were talking about this just before we got on, are mostly literal, right? And Rob and I know this from obviously photo competitions and seeing the work. Your work is not literal. And when I look at your compositions, obviously there's a lot of work that goes into those compositions. And of course, like you were saying, a lot of wide angle, there's a lot of thought and planning behind these. Maybe you could walk us a little bit through your process on how you approach a photo. You don't strike me as a photographer that's going to go out and take 20 images, process 15 of those, and then just put them on Instagram Monday through, for the next couple of weeks. That's not how you roll, which is great. So walk us through your process a little bit and just tell us about, it was really interesting. We were talking about getting rid of your telephoto lenses and, why the desire to move more to the wide angle and how you've evolved into that.
So I'll back all the way up to when I was a little kid. I started off photography, I started off art, not in photography, but in, when I was a little kid, I started doing professional art when I was around 9 or so, and I was able to make a little business off it. And I was really into drawing birds and animals and wildlife and whatever it may be. But what I noticed, eventually the photography took over that. But looking back at my old work, it was interesting because the drawings, the pieces I would produce were, when it wasn't a commissioned work, I was drawing wide angle images. I was drawing images that, frankly, if you drop them in my Instagram portfolio or in my website, it looks like it belongs right with it. Exact same style, same composition, same framing styles ever since I was a little kid, just things I was drawn to. And I noticed that. And for a while, I felt like, honestly, I was betraying my style a little bit because that's my genuine raw style. I'd be willing to say it's what genuinely interests me. And for a while, I kind of feel like I've been through, that artistic era, going for the non-literal shot, as you said, going for the playing with light a little bit, going for those dramatic blue hours, going for the, I've tried motion blurs. I feel like I've kind of done the length and breadth of wildlife photography, the different styles and stuff, just tried it all. And I keep coming back to what I really love is these wider angles. And I felt as though the telephoto, I was shooting 600 f4 for a while, 500 f4 after that. It's a big lens. It's heavy. I was traveling a lot. I wanted mobility. I wanted to be able to switch lenses. I wanted to be able to move around. And having that was taking so much of my time, so much of my effort. And it was, frankly, taking so much space in my mind when I was out shooting, just dealing with this lens. And it was always on my main, and I'd have my wider angles kind of on my side or in a backpack, that I was coming home. And the only images I ever really processed or even cared about remotely, they could be great images, they could be solid. The only ones I cared about were the wider angles. It's just what spoke to me, because I want to capture full scenes, I guess, just what interests me. I want to capture stories. And it's been a real, it's felt like it's been a tough journey, honestly. I've been trying to unlearn a lot of things, a lot of thought process. I developed just things that weren't true to my style, a lot of ingrained thought processes about what my photography needs to be and how I need to go about it. I've developed just a whole new system for it nowadays.
Interesting. And because I'm also attracted to wide angle shots. I love wide angle. But I think for me, the reason is content. I like to have content in my compositions, not, minimalism, but whether it's trees supporting the bird or just that overall landscape. When you say wide angle speaks to you, why does it speak to you from your standpoint? What attracts you to the wide angle shot?
A question I always ask myself when I'm in the field is what would I want on my wall? And I'm trying to produce images that I care about. And wide angles, I care about them because they're, like you said, they have context. They tell a story. I can look at them once they're great. But then will I look at them again and still love them and still be interested and be like, wow, that's just such a scene. And nowadays I especially with travel and such, I want images that when I look at the one image, I get the full spectrum of what I saw. And I've been really leaning and doing a deep dive into landscape photography, astro, really every form of photography I've dabbled in within the last couple of years. Just trying to learn from the masters, doing a real deep dive into everything technical skills and all of that. And I found that what I really want is to capture storyful images that I can look at in 30 years time, and it'll transport me right to that day, right to that moment with that bird, with that subject. And then there's that lake there, and it's everything. I found it's honestly like telephoto work. It started to feel a little cheap to me. I just kept taking telephotos, and it's like I can capture red-winged blackbird telephoto. The process of capturing a wide angle felt like a challenge. It was like, this I could do for years and go for the same photo and keep making it better and better, because there's so much room for improvement within it. And it just felt like something that I could devote myself to and love, because there was just the capacity for growth and the capacity for an amazing image was just so much higher, it felt like. And that's what just grabbed me.
Yeah. No, I love that approach. I mean, I've said it before on the podcast, and I've said it, when we come and do the judging of some of these competitions, that I think, all judges pretty much without exception will say that the most skillful images, or the most difficult images to get right, are the ones where the subject is small in the frame, because you have so many other elements to juggle. And as you say, you're creating a narrative for the viewer, which is not just centered on the animal, the bird, whatever it is your subject is. You have to put those other pieces of the jigsaw together in a way that makes sense and tells a story. And that's so difficult, and stepping away from this, from the regimented way that most people are introduced to wildlife photography. And it seems to be there's like a set pattern. There's this learning process which involves this wide angle lens, and you must get a frame filling shot. But when you look at the two things together, that frame filling shot is a much easier thing to compose and get not perfect but right and do well, as opposed to the wider in the frame shot, which takes a lot more skill and planning, and I think experience as well.
Yeah. One thing I find too is people who go after telephoto shots, typically it's more about the animal or the bird, right? It's about the species.
Correct,
they're more, they're drawn to whatever that rare bird or the, whatever. People who shoot wide angle, it's more about the scene and creating art, right? It's less about that species of bird or the species of mammal.
You have to walk it. You take it. It walks all the way back to the beginning of your creative process. Like I felt like that was funny. You said that. Like for a while, I was planning my shoots and going after things as I did as a telephoto photographer. But then when I got there, I was just holding the wide angle lens and I couldn't get anything. But it was only once I started to revamp the entire process, the entire planning process, the entire thought process, from even the gear I had and possessed, all the way, change everything all the way back, full revamp, was I starting to get consistent results in the field. So I was betraying myself for the longest time, following these things that I thought were fundamental wildlife photography back, but when I really just need to change everything.
Yeah.
So the lenses that you're carrying around now, what do you sort of typically shoot at focal length wise?
So right now, I'm in the process of doing a little change up with my gear. As of right now, I have a 11 to 20 millimeter. It's a Tokina. I really like that little lens. Kind of it's a third party, ultra wide. I put it on my crop sensor 70 Mark II. It's like a 14-year-old camera, but the thing is an absolute
That's a great camera. I had that camera. I love that one.
legendary. So I still shoot that thing. So that Tokina, it's about like, I don't know, 16, 17, maybe 18 millimeters with the 1.6 crop. I'm not sure. And then I switched that out with a Canon L series. It's an older 70 to 300 millimeter. And that thing's a tank too. Just absolute great. Fantastic construction, real pack sharp, kind of lightweight for the size and all. And then I shoot double body most of the time in the field. I used to switch lenses all the time. It's hazardous. I can't get with that anymore. So I shoot double body, and I just bought an R6 with a 24 to 105, and that's been my main. That's been on my main. It's not as wide as I'd like it to be, but it can handle most situations.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's another good example of actually you can, what is relatively old kit, it doesn't matter. The camera doesn't matter. It's what you compose with that camera and what you take that's the key to it, isn't it? And the way you see the shot and the way you compose things, as opposed to the equipment that you've got in your hand. As I said, it harks back to my comment about the golf clubs, I think, on the last podcast. It's like I said, you could give me a $2,000 set of golf clubs and give Rory McIlroy something from Walmart, and he's going to beat me, isn't he?
Yeah.
And the text leveled off too, right? I mean, you don't have these huge leaps anymore in technology. I mean, since I don't know, 2019, I mean, it's been there's been nothing really in terms. Faster frame.
I'd say before that, because I mean, you look at the cameras like, the Nikon D800, which came out in what, 2013, 14, whenever it was.
That
was a hell of a camera for the time. I mean, I was shooting that until about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, I tell people nowadays when they ask about gear, it's like you said, there's not that much difference. You can get fantastic gear for cheap nowadays. I mean, secondhand marketplaces are just popping with cheap stuff. Get the gear that's right for you. Like, it could be anything. It could be, if the right style for you is film, go for it. If it's a Leica, sure. If it's a Canon brand new with a 600 millimeter f4, sure. Like, compatible with your style is the best thing I could ever recommend. It's just, there's just so much.
And when you were talking about planning trips, Caleb, obviously when you plan trips and the shots that you're going for, you're not looking for quantity, obviously. So what are your expectations when you're going on a trip? Especially, you were just in Alaska, I saw on Instagram not that long ago. So obviously that's a far trip to take. What are your expectations? What do you plan on coming home? Is it just one shot that you have planned? Is it multiple shots? Tell us a little bit about your planning process and what you expect from it.
Yeah, so depending on the trip, like Alaska was a more wildlife-centric trip than I normally take. I tend to fit wildlife photography sort of around trips, and I find that tends to go a little bit better because there's birds everywhere. But with a trip, say for instance Alaska, I'm definitely happy if I come home with just one stellar frame. Stellar to me, that is something I really, something I vibe with. But I'll go into a place, I'll do a good bit of research, I'll do a bit of planning, but really what I want is at least a well-rounded portfolio of decent shots that I appreciate, things that sort of tell the story of the place, things I can look back on. I'm not a big repeat and go back to the same place kind of guy, so I'd like to sort of document it, but within that portfolio, those images, I just kind of store them away. I like just at least one that is more of an artistic masterpiece than the rest. One that I would be more than happy to put on my wall and say, this was Alaska. This idealized Alaska to me. And this means something to me. And if I can get that, I'm pretty happy. I've come home from trips and not gotten anything. That happens plenty. But it's just, depends on the trip. Some are a bit more, some lend to it more. Sometimes you don't find anything.
Mm-hmm.
Do you tend to concentrate a lot more on scenic locations or locations that are going to portray a location in the way that you had in your mind? Do you sort of pre-plan those things, or do you just turn up somewhere, recce it for a bit, and then come up with a list of things or scenes that you'd like to shoot? How does that work for you?
So I like to kind of kick around, at least for a little bit. I'll plan some general locations. I'll use tools like I'll use Instagram's kind of hashtag features and such to sort of get a general appearance of the location before I go. See what sort of other photographers are posting. I'll use hashtags like that. I'll use different social media platforms, try to get a general idea of what I'm walking into. Once I get there, a lot of times that goes out the window. And I try to ask myself questions. I find it's the best way to truly get in touch with what you want out of a place, you know? So when I get there, I'll ask myself things like what do I want on my wall? I'll ask, what about this scene do I like? Like, what's special to me? What hits me? And then when I get there, I could be like, it's a beautiful scene, but I'm like, I don't care, you know? I could be in front of, and nowadays I'm just so much more true to my own personal creative taste. I'll go to a place and have just coolest photo subject. It could be anything. It could be like, for instance, we had doll sheet out in Alaska, probably 5 or 6 sessions with them. I thought they're amazing. I was shooting them. I was just having a fantastic time. But it kind of hit me that, like, these are awesome photo subjects, but the only thing I really cared about with them was getting the ramps. It was like the females there this time of year, they're kind of shedding, they're losing their winter coat. Yeah, they're awesome animals. And a lot of times I'll kind of gaslight myself a little bit and tell myself that I should like a subject. I should be shooting these ptarmigans. I should be, the marmots are here. I should shoot them. But sometimes things don't interest me. And I've been trying to be a bit more careful about figuring out what things I'm shooting just because I think they'll make a great image or be popular on Instagram or whatever that may be. And I'll just completely not shoot something. Great op, birds there. If I don't vibe with it, I'm not coming near it anymore. It could be
sometimes it's just a gut feeling, right? I mean, it's just a sense that, you know, you're not
going to do something as good. And I'll shoot a subject in a scene that most people would be like, eh. And I'm like, this is the coolest thing. And then I'll end up getting something that I really love just because it hits me. And then that image hits me. And I'm like, that's how I'm going to shoot it. Mm. I just feel like that's been so much more effective for me than shooting the things that are technically, you know, there's a great bird colony, but it doesn't really interest me. There's this duck in this park with this cool light. And I vibe with that. And that's just been so much better.
Such a brilliant way of putting your personality on something, isn't it? Rather than just sort of taking a standard shot of something that everybody else goes to a particular location to shoot. I mean, we've got plenty of examples of that we could share of those, but putting your own personal stamp on something by, you know, taking a completely different approach to the way the majority of people look at something, I think is just so refreshing. And this is, you know, when you're looking at photography that really stands out, be it in competitions or on social media or whatever, then I think it's when somebody puts their personality and you can look at a photograph and know somebody cares about what they've taken, and the feeling of being there, they're being able to communicate that to the audience. I think that is a real skill.
And such an intangible too. Like, how can you even quantify that? You just got to know. If
you think about it, how can you teach it? You can't teach that. That's a feeling. That's you know, that's a personality trait, which is what I'm getting from you. You know, the more we get to talk, and when you were talking about, you know, the art, right? You know, when you're a kid, you know, you were doing stuff that presumably nobody else was doing. You were seeing things in a different way, and I think it's not how you record something. I think it's how you see it, and that it starts with that process, doesn't it? It's how you see something. That's how you build the tools and the compositions to portray it in a way that you see it. And I think that's a real skill.
Yeah.
It's just having this conversation with another photographer friend of mine. We're talking about how we grow in photography. As time goes on, we follow this path of we start shooting with our telephotos and we go through this process. We learn backlight, we learn all these things, but eventually, the things you need to learn to keep going it's like you said, it's physically incapable. You cannot teach those things. It's just time, and you need to have a pure, unadulterated view of your subjects. Just how do you see them? Free of any sort of influencer. It's required in order to reach that next level, I feel like. And it's hard to get there sometimes. We can get in our heads, and I think we slow ourselves down. And that's the biggest thing I've been trying to overcome. I'm just trying to break past that. It's a never-ending process, really.
Yeah.
And I think
see a lot of
we've also got those sort of preconceived ideas, haven't we, of what photography should be, because we've got social media throwing stuff at us all the time, which in the majority of cases, particularly with wildlife, there's a pretty formulaic approach to it. And I think, we get so influenced with that it's very, very difficult to break out of that mold and think for yourself and think of it in a different way, because being different is, you run the risk of, oh, somebody might not like my image. Well, if you're like me, you take things because you like it rather than trying to please other people. And I think, that's really important.
So many photographers get stuck. I mean, I see it on Instagram all the time where they come up with their own style and they stop evolving because they feel like they can't take other type, I'm an avian photographer, or I only shoot backlight, or I'm, blah, blah, blah. And they prevent themselves from growing. Actually, you see it all the time. I've spoken to photographers in the field and I'm like, hey, get the macro out. Well, it looks great, but I'm a bird photographer. Well, what does that mean? So I think a lot of people kind of stop their own growth because they want to shoot and fit that mold that they think people see them as, and they want to stay in the lane. And I think that's very limiting, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I think that this is, if you gave somebody a wide angle lens and you took their telephotos away and took them out of their comfort zones, you're going to make them feel very, very uncomfortable. But what a way to try and teach people, to look at things another way. I mean, it was when Georgina came to stay last year, we went to see Stonehenge because it's round the corner from me. And she obviously wanted to see it, and I didn't take a telephoto with me. Why would I? I took a 20, I think it was a 24 to 120 I took with me, and we ended up photographing birds, but actually it was great fun with a wider lens because we didn't have the comfort to fall back on of the telephoto. You had the wide angle, which forced you to do something different, which was interesting. And I think, more people should do it, actually.
You'll think the same way. The lens you're holding completely changes the way you think. It's amazing.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed.
And field craft is important too. Like Caleb, talk about the field craft a little bit. Well, one shot sticks out. I remember it's probably a while ago. You had a barn swallow shot, and they were.
Yeah, I've been looking.
I don't know when that was. It was a while ago. But if you could talk about like the field craft in terms of, how important that is from your standpoint in getting some of these shots, because obviously if you don't know a lot about the species, how they react, what their comfort level is with you're not going to be able to get close. You're not going to be able to accomplish these shots. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, so I think it matters a great deal. I've spent a good bit of time just through workshops and just through connecting with other photographers, shooting with other people, and kind of watching the way they do things. And I was able to realize how differently, based on the kind of shot you're going for, how you move around, even how you portray yourself around animals. Like, are you moving up to them quickly? Are you going to be kind of rounding, or are you going to be stalking, kind of rounding around? I'm kind of the opinion that it's best for me, at least, to watch an animal as much as possible. There's a lot of technical things you can know about an animal's demeanor and about an animal's, this is how they react to this, and this is a more skittish animal. But I nowadays I'll watch them and I'll see kind of what I can get away with, what they'll let me do, what kind of skittishness we're dealing with. Sometimes fieldcraft can be the difference between getting the shot and not. Like if you know that an animal reuses the same purchase, like for instance with owls, a person that knows owls can go into the woods and find an owl again and again and again. Any new patch of woods, you can find an owl. It's just how it works. You get to know them. These little tricks, you pick them along the way. So I think it's very important to educate yourself, but more than anything, just watch. Get with your subject and just watch it. Get as much information you can and just kind of get that third sense, something you might not be able to express. You kind of just understand that sandpiper's on this rock. He's probably going to move to this rock next. Just because you watched him jump between rocks enough. Mm-hmm. And those little things is how you're going to get where you need to be. I just say patience and watching. I oftentimes will set the camera down and just in the field and just sit there, just watch. I could be taking photos, but after a minute of just observing, kind of looking around, seeing what's going on, how are they reacting to things, I'll start shooting completely differently after that minute of just kind of quiet observance. I think that's very important, just taking time, not rushing it. Get field knowledge, get information, but try to get some of your own too, and you'll learn so much.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Yeah, so many photographers rush, or they see something, they get excited, and boom, they want to shoot it, and they don't take the time to observe. Not many people do, actually.
No, that and half a dozen people behind you that are queuing up to photograph this thing.
Yeah,
that's in the UK. We don't have many people over here. We don't have to worry about that, Rob.
You guys have got space.
With wider angles, you have to. A lot of times you have to be alone. You have to be as small of a presence as possible. You have to take that time. Like with I think I know which swallow shot you're talking about. The one with it was kind of up in the air a little bit. It's a golden light behind. Yeah. Yes, those guys. I had that shot did not come to me. Like I was not. I never saw that shot until I think it was my second day of being out there. I had to step back. I was shooting them because they were coming to their nest with like mud and stuff in their beaks, and their nest so the shot was taken from a bridge, and the bridge had these concrete sidings. It was like a little country road in the middle of nowhere, Tennessee, absolutely nowhere. And they're concrete sides, but beneath the concrete was this little ledge, this little opening, enough for a wide angle lens. And right beneath that ledge was their mud nest that they stick up under there. They're come with mud. They were sort of the end of their breeding season, I think. No, beginning, because they're bringing mud. Beginning their breeding season, so it was very active. Both parents moving, no chicks. So it was the best time to do it. And shot did not hit me at first. Did not see that shot. I was shooting them down by the mud banks as they were picking up mud. I was shooting them across the way from the side of the bridge down like the line of the nests as they're flying in. I was trying to like manual focus them as they would arrive and then get them, and it was a whole ordeal. Got some shots, never did anything with them. I'd never gone up on the bridge because I was like, you can't see them. You can't even see the swallows from the bridge. They're just coming up under me and I'll scare them. But then I decided, like, I'm bored. It's at the end of the day one day, and I'm like, okay. At the end of the morning session, the light was getting a little higher. It was like, okay. So I go over there, and I'm like, oh snap, there's this little gap, and they're right beneath the gap. And it did not even hit me until I took a second to look around and kind of quiet my mind. And then I went for it, found the highest concentration of nests, put the camera out there, and then just waited. They kept flowing and flowing and flowing, and then they'll kind of hover for a second, and that's what allowed for that. But yeah, just observing behavior. They're so reliable. They're so consistent. Just coming back and back, but took a second. Did not see it. Took 2 days.
But I think that's important. Yeah, I mean that's an important thing, isn't it? I mean, observing behavior over a period of time allows you to process what's going on and piece together something a little different. You can actually use that knowledge to your advantage and say, okay, well, I can ditch the telephoto or whatever you've been using. I can actually get them wide angle, because they're coming in, I can manually focus because I'm never going to autofocus on these things given the light and given the speed and everything else. Yeah, it's just that observation is just so critical in those situations.
Yeah. And most people don't shoot barn swallows, right? I mean, it's just not a subject, which is kind of cool in and of itself. I like when photographers focus on subjects that aren't, eagles, osprey. I mean, the majority of photographers in North America focus on the same things, in my opinion, owls.
And great things going around.
Yeah.
I mean, you can understand it, can't you? I mean, as I said, when you're looking at competitions in particular, you do get sick of certain species.
Puffins, underwater gannets,
kingfishers.
Love underwater gannet.
Puffins and kingfishers in particular.
Yeah.
And I get it. They're colourful, or they're clown-like in terms of the puffin. It's very, they've got very human-like qualities. So you understand where the attraction comes from that.
You can anthropomorphize them a little bit. Some of the draw into, some of the tap into.
Yeah. That's that cute and cuddly thing. Everybody loves that. And I never got into it myself. I just never, there's a few photographers that do it really well. I just like Tin Man Lee comes to mind. He has that down. But it just isn't, I don't know. That's just something that never moved me. The cute and cuddly thing. I don't know.
I almost go to the other end of the spectrum. Like, I feel like I completely ignore the subject when I'm shooting. I'm like, oh yeah, I got him in the frame. He's kind of doing something that fits right shape-wise. Great. I don't care. I have a landscape I'm trying to shoot.
Yeah.
And honestly, I miss that emotion most of the time. So, I mean, I admire anyone who even pays attention to that, because that's a miss for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And shooting those images, it's difficult. I mean, even once you get the scene and the lighting, there's all these little things too, like working the edges on those shots, I think is very important. How many times have I come back with shots I really liked, and then I had to clone something out, or it's something that if I moved a little bit in the field, I could have, so working the edges is really key, I think, in those shots.
Yeah, keep sliding around, slight movements, those little things you never pick up. Because you look in the middle of the frame, especially when the viewfinder is so close to your eye.
Yeah. It's where you focus in. That's my problem. It's just you're looking at that, but you don't work the edges as much. You have to train.
It's difficult. And if you're in a telephoto lens and you're filling the frame with the subject, you don't have the same issues like that.
Yeah.
Yes, you need to look around the frame just to make sure there's not anything there that shouldn't be there, but it's not the same because you've not got all these little, the corners in those wide angle frames. Every element makes a difference. You've got to put them together with critical precision almost, haven't you? It's just you can't overlook those details.
And the camera warps are so critical. You move your like this, and the entire photo, the composition has to be totally different because that one stick is suddenly 3 times larger. And it's just, I wrote on the way back from New Zealand, I wrote a very intensive note on my phone about everything I've ever learned about wide angles, like a master class of wide angles, because I wanted to synthesize, because I had just gotten done the entire time of just shooting wide angles. I was working stuff, and I'm like, I have all these pent up thoughts in my mind, these things I've never seen in writing before, that I've never seen anybody teach. I've never heard them spoken. I'm like, I need to put these to paper. They're just things like that, where the tiniest changes and how you have to be so conscientious. It's a mentally destroying process if you're shooting like an hour worth of wide angles on tame subjects. I'll come back with an absolute headache sometimes, just absolutely destroying my mind, trying to think about every little stick and every little movement. How am I going to process this? How should I be exposing this? Just a monstrosity.
Yeah, and most people don't think about or talk about it. And I think it's unfortunate because I think wide angle photography can be taboo in the wildlife and nature photography space because people will just immediately say, you're too close to the animal, get back, grab a telephoto lens, or, you're endangering the animal. So there's that overall kind of taboo around it.
For sure.
And I think because of that, there's not many people that are in that space. So there's not a lot of dialogue, like what you were writing down on your phone. I just don't think there's not a lot of conversation around that and enough photographers to have that dialogue because it's generally seen as taboo if you're too close to the animal, or what people would say if you're too close. They don't know if you have a remote trigger or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's that's also a good excuse, isn't it?
Oh, totally.
I don't use the
That's all
wide
I
angle because I don't believe in getting close to the animals and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
From an ethical standpoint, it's just because it's difficult.
Yeah.
And you're taking somebody out of the comfort zone. They're used to having a long lens. They like it. They feel comfortable with it. So the people won't step out of their comfort zone generally. But it's the photographers that do and are prepared to experiment, that will come up with photographs that will say something completely different, and and we'll just have a whole different feel. I mean, as I said, we could scroll through Instagram and we could look at 100,000 close-up portraits of birds, insects, animals, whatever you want to look at, and they'll all be done in a very, very similar way. The lighting will all be different, and people who use it more skillfully than others, but generally speaking, it's very formulaic. And I think this is so nice to be able to break a mold.
One of the big problems and why this kind of perpetuates is, like with any hobby or skill-based thing, so for instance, basketball. You play basketball, and the way you learn basketball is by doing drills. You do other things. You try all the different aspects. With photography, the only practice for wildlife photography is wildlife photography. With art, and you're doing, say, whatever form of art, when you're in art school, they put you through figure sketching. They have you do these practices to learn lights and darks. All these different things then come together into your practice. It could be seemingly unrelated, but they help you to be a more well-rounded person at your discipline. With wildlife photography, the only practice we get for wildlife photography is wildlife photography. And I feel like that creates such a channeled and just a very narrow field to where there's not a whole lot of breaking the rules and a whole lot of new disciplines and new thought processes. And
it comes with a uniform as well, doesn't it? Wildlife photography.
It's the camo and the 600.
It's got to get khakis, and then it's the whole thing.
You've got to fit the mold, otherwise you're not a wildlife photographer.
Yeah, it's oddly regimented and specific.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, Caleb. You were just talking about how wildlife photography generally is just wildlife photography. When we started the conversation, you were talking about painting and your experience with art growing up. How much has that influenced your photography? If you weren't painting and drawing and doing these things when you were a kid, do you think your photography would be different? It seems like there was a huge influence on your style.
Completely different. I mean, I recognize it regularly, the influences. I'm like, oh, I know where that comes from. Like, why I do that, why I think the way I look at color. Editing is something, the way I edit, I've been told it's strange, which it is. It's very much like I'm working on a painting. I'm looking at it as such. I'm working in complementary colors. I use a lot of things that I learned in my days doing art in those processes. I definitely stray more towards I'm looking like I'm creating a form of art, not that I'm capturing a moment at all. Like, I feel like when I look around, it's like a canvas around me, and then what I do, I'm simply changing what's in my canvas. And I think that kind of mental, my brain being trained in that way, I can't unlearn that. And I don't know how unique it is, but it feels unique to me, and it feels specific. But I'd say the processes, the things I shoot, the way I even look at nature is all very much color, pattern, texture. How is this appealing to my eye? Like, because I want a work of art. I want something I put on my wall.
Mm-hmm. That's a very different way of looking at it, because you get these distinct groups of people, don't you, in photography, that a group that will look at things the way you do, in terms of you're creating a work of art, and that's the way that I look at things, and I know Josh is the same. And you get other people that look at things from a very literal point of view, and they're just recording a moment. So they're the and there's nothing right or wrong about either approach. I mean, it's you do whatever you want to do. Photography is there to be enjoyed, and however, I've said this a million times, however you want to enjoy photography is fine. but there are certain sections that if you are deliberately underexposing, for example, to create something, and well, that's not what you saw with your eye. Well, that's not what I'm trying to create. I'm trying to create a work of art. I'm trying to show something in a way that you can't see with a naked eye. And I think that's one of photography's superpowers, is that, it can show you stuff that you just don't see with a naked eye, be it that overexposure, underexposure, be that freezing motion, for example. I mean, who the hell looks at fighting water birds and sees these frozen water droplets everywhere backlit? And you don't see that because you can't. But photography is revealing that to you. And I think that approach, your approach in terms of, I'm looking to create a work of art, I'm looking at my pixels as my canvas, and this is what these are the strokes that I want to paint on that canvas, and I'll place them, I'll put these pieces together in a very specific way, in terms of composition, in terms of exposure, in terms of post-production, let's say, with the editing. I think it's a very unique way of looking at things.
It's an elegant dance, all of it, all the different pieces, and it's just, I like to feel in control. I like to feel like that what I produced was all me, because I don't want to be like, oh, this was a lucky moment. Like that feels tough. I'm like, I did my best, man.
Yeah, and we've all been in those situations. But the other thing when I've given talks before, I think the one thing I'm always keen to stress to groups of people that know their way around cameras, talking about camera clubs, they're enthusiastic, is to try and get away from the thought that you're capturing a scene that's in front of you, to you're capturing the light that's reflecting off that scene. And you can do that in a number of different ways, and you can change settings, you can approach it in a different way to generate a very different result if you think of it in those terms. So it's capturing the light, not the subject itself. And I think when you start getting your head around that, people start changing the way they look at it.
Yeah, it's not anything we're ever taught starting out.
Exactly. A camera's there to record a moment. Well, not for me. Cameras
The
there.
wildlife photographers are too fundamentalist, I think. They're just too, look at fashion, look at food photography. I mean, there's so many, I just think they have the blinders on too much, at least in North America. In Europe, they're a little more open-minded, I think, when it comes to art, Rob. I mean, you've seen it, but.
Yeah, but I mean, the majority of photographers, European, North American, whatever, will look at things in a very literal way. And as I said, there is nothing wrong with that.
You'll get more likes on social media if you have a heron swallowing a fish versus a white scene.
Well, again, how many times have we said it? If you want likes on Instagram, then post a puffin.
Yeah.
Close up of a puffin. You'll get loads.
You know what you're going for. If you're going for social media, and own it and go for it. Yeah,
fill your boots.
Yeah, rock on.
But if you want to stand out, then you're going to have to do something different.
Yeah, absolutely. Caleb, we haven't talked too much about your travels, but one thing I noticed, I have to ask you about this. You were on or near a glacier, hiking around, and there was like a B-29, like flying fortress that crashed there. Tell us a little bit about that. That looked pretty insane. So, and you said there were ptarmigan all around, which makes it even better. But
yeah, so I had, I saw an old Reddit post because I was doing a whole research thing, and I'm like, what is there to see around Southern Alaska? And I'm a big urban explorer kind of guy. I love exploring abandoned things and find those weird little places to see. I just explored a thing out in Cincinnati 2 days ago or so, a boat that has a whole story behind it, but won't get into that. But this bomber, I found some coordinates to the area, and the coordinates weren't right, unfortunately. So I had this giant area to search. I knew that if I took this trail, it was like a 6-mile trail or so. At the end of it, there was a lake, and then you had to summit a couple of peaks, like go up a few different ridges, and then there was a giant glacier past it. And I'm like, this sounds like a great use of my time. I'm going to go find this bomber. I don't know where I'm going. I got a buddy with me. I'll take him with me. We're gonna go find this thing. And I had no idea what wildlife was gonna be around. I'm like, this habitat seems good for ptarmigas, maybe. Maybe we're gonna see some squirrel. I don't know. Maybe some mountain goats would be cool. So we're gonna gear along. Long hike. 6.5 hours later, we finished the hike, and I'm still ascending. I'm going up. I had cleared a few ridges, and I couldn't find this thing. And then finally, I get up to this next ridge, this final ridge. I'm lost in the sauce. It's a giant snowfield. It had not melted, which I thought it would in mid-June. And I get to the top, and there it is down there, this crashed bomber back in like the 50s or whatever. I wish I could have gone down there. I brought some tools with me. I was going to try to take like some buttons or something just for souvenirs. But unfortunately, it would just been an absolute mess getting down there. Giant snowfield. It's on a glacier. I think August or so, maybe in mid-July would be accessible. But along the way, there was things everywhere. There was beavers. There were beaver dams. There was a bald eagle sitting on a beaver dam. There was white-tailed ptarmigans calling and doing their displays, and there were Arctic ground squirrels. One stole my trail mix. It was a whole thing. This was a whole day encounter. It was like a 12-hour. The entire thing was like 12 hours. I walked it was like over mid 30,000 steps. It was a whole ordeal. There's so many tiny little stories within this day, but when I got up there, once I started to get up there, I ended up most of the time I spent with snow buntings. I had no idea there were snow buntings. I thought snow buntings were like a tundra breeder. We were high in the mountains at this glacial lake beneath the bomber, and there's a breeding pair of snow buntings. Snow everywhere. I'm like, yeah, okay. Beautiful little birds. I saw it at first. I'm like, what the heck is that? Like, I've only ever seen them in their winter plumage, like the burnt marshmallow look. Anyways, shot them at the lake. They were fantastic. Got some wide angles of them. And then at this lake, a wandering tattler shows up, and I'm like, okay,
That's a good bird.
I didn't know that was around. I didn't know that was there. Beautiful. Oh, loved it. Wide angle bat thing. Fantastic time. I ended up diving into that lake after I'd finished all my shooting, after I'd seen the bomber. It was completely frozen over, except for this little section. The water was like 35 degrees. I had a swimsuit on. I dove in, and I had to hike 6 hours back. It was awful. It was the worst thing ever. It was terrible. And I had a swimsuit on. I threw a thermal on, and it was like anywhere from like knee to waist deep snow. It was a really bad idea, but I was like, for the lore, man, I got to do this. So, like, photography kind of just fits around the things I do, and it ends up working pretty well just because I'm in cool places, and then the birds come. But that was a good time. Really cool thing to see. Yeah, it was a full day. It was like right at the end of the Alaska trip, kind of a last hurrah.
Yeah. That's awesome. And it's the middle of nowhere too. I mean, some of these places that you share your stories, these aren't, tourist spots. I mean, these aren't spots that you're not pulling off the side of a road near Nome. You're it looks like you're way off the beaten path, which is kind of interesting.
That feels special to me. I like that. There's places that I've been that no one's ever been to. That means something to me. It feels genuine.
Yeah. And the photography, the photographs you take presumably are, you make them try to be a representation of that memory, presumably.
Yeah, that's what I was really trying to do. I was like, this place is beautiful. Like, this place is absolutely amazing. There's the glacier up here, the bomber. All I wanted was to capture cool landscape photos with these uber cool species that were just rolling and rolling out. And I got some wide angles of some ground squirrel, which I like. And I don't want to do wide angle for wide angle's sake. Like, I feel like it's so easy to you can capture wide angle of a city duck. So cool, whatever. But I'm trying to be careful not to shoot wide angle. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm nervous that I might just get too into wide angle and I lose the idea behind the wide angle. It's telling the story, which you can technically do with a telephoto. You can do it 300 millimeters. You can do it 500 millimeters if you know how to do it. So I'm definitely trying to walk a line there, trying to figure out not to get lost in, I guess.
Yeah. So you want to use the best tool for the job, and that might not necessarily be the wide angle, but you get too myopically focused in on what you're doing, you forget about everything else.
Because technically, it's just the idea behind it. It's not, the wide angle is just a catalyst for that. It's just how we do it best and how we like to do it. Almost easiest. It's the easiest way to capture the largest scene. Yeah, convoluted.
Yeah. And how when you go on these adventures, and let's say you had a day like that, typically how many frames would you shoot?
I shot so many pictures on this trip. I would say I've been really leaning towards one shot nowadays instead of high speed continuous. I will switch to it, but I would say nowadays I shoot a lot less. Maybe a full day of photography like that, always out in nature, overcast light midday. I could be looking around 500 to 1,000. It would definitely be 5,000-6,000 back then, but I'm much more conscientious these days. When I shoot an image, I'm trying to create a thing. I try to be very conscientious of what I'm producing. Yeah. There's just a total shift around. There'll be days I might only shoot 10 or 12 photos in a morning just because nothing really hit me, I guess.
Yeah. How many pictures did you come back from Shetland with, Josh?
God. So I did the opposite of what you did. I think 45,000 images I think I had. So I was not shooting in the way of Caleb Hoover, or, you know, we were talking about Jim Brandenburg last time, Robert. It was one of our previous podcasts, and I went back where he had this project. He recently passed, but I know he had a project some years ago. This was in the film days in Minnesota. He just took one shot a day for a couple of months, and he made a book out of it. And he would just go out in one frame a day. I think that's an incredible concept, and something, you know, because you have to be so deliberate on when you pull the trigger, right? And thinking about that shot. And no, I should get rid of high speed continuous. The culling
at the same time is like, I don't know if it's better, or like I keep going back and forth. Is it better to shoot more frames? Because you're not like you're wasting time. You're still being conscientious shooting more frames. Is it better, or am I just wasting time? Like, am I wasting when I could be shooting these images? And this is something I always grapple with.
Yeah.
Like, should I be more like, am I actually benefiting myself, or am I potentially limiting because the law of averages? I could potentially just be getting better images through quantity.
Yeah.
I don't know. Still being
action. I like frames, right? If there's some sort of action sequence, I've got the hammer down. And sometimes I don't even know I have an image that's good. It's embarrassing to say this, but I mean, we all do it. I mean, I'll call them like, "Oh, that's a great image." I don't even remember taking that image, but that's the image I like. But if it's like a wide scene, you know, you could be much more discerning about it.
Yeah, but we're being conditioned into using the equipment to its maximum capacity, aren't we? So if you've got 20, 30 frames a second as a wildlife photographer, why, you know, it's almost a crime not to use 20, 30 frames a second, even when you don't need it, which in the majority of situations you actually don't. But what a refreshing way to look at it is to be a lot more considered and shoot one frame at a time and limit yourself. It's definitely a project I think I want to do.
It helps the calling process.
Yeah.
You're not shooting video in the field.
Yeah. No, I definitely want to do this where you just take, you know, the 24 or 34 shots in a session. So the equivalent of a roll of film, let's say, and just see how see how good those results can actually be by limiting yourself in that way, and then being a lot more considered about what you actually take.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be really interesting exercise that. I shall definitely do that as a project at some point.
I'll do it when you do it, Rob. We could both do it together, actually. So
we should plan this. Actually, we should do this. We should do this. What are we going to go for? Birds,
insects, inverts. I don't know.
Has it got to
be birds? We shoot birds too much, I think. Let's mix it up.
But it's got to be birds, isn't it?
Mushrooms. How about fungi?
Yeah, but they don't run away, do they? I mean, they're reasonably
that's
straightforward to take a single frame of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we should do it something a bit challenging. I reckon we should do it with birds.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, let's
do it.
sort that out at some point. Yeah, maybe if you come over.
Yeah, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try and make it.
Yeah, so maybe we do that for a day or something. Maybe we just do it for a day
Okay.
and limit ourselves and just see what we can come up with. Yeah, that would be really interesting.
Unless something really good happens, and then we have to cheat. But
No,
Capture
you have to stick to
cameras.
it. For witness, you have to stick to it. Right.
Yeah, and something really cool is going to happen, isn't it?
this is when like the amazing sequence happens, and we're like, click, 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 click.
Oh, that's you.
Oh dear. Anyway, no, we should definitely do that. So when you come over, we'll do it.
Okay.
We'll sort it out.
Deal.
Yeah.
Deal.
So Caleb, it seems to me that the adventure is the thing that comes first with you, and the photography is something that
These days,
doesn't sort of tag along, but it's a secondary element.
well, honestly, I have much more health. I think I have a much more healthy relationship with photography than I used to. I'm kind of coming from a place of, especially back during COVID. During COVID, I was finishing up high school. I had nothing else to do. I was absolutely obsessed with wildlife photography. I mean, I was home maybe 4 hours midday to do school, and then I was back out to do photography every day. I would ride my bike around town up to like 40 minutes each way just to go see wildlife because I couldn't drive. I wasn't going to impose on anybody. And I was absolutely obsessed. And honestly, I burnt out a little bit for a while, as many tend to. Definitely started to hate it a little bit. And these days, I've just realized that I shot so much that I honestly felt like I started getting worse. I was getting to the point where I was becoming so all up in my head about it that I couldn't shoot genuinely. I was shooting scenes and images that I just was like, it was like I'm following a formula. It was a script. It was like, this is what works. I'm gonna shoot this. I'm getting this angle. Boom, boom, boom. It was efficient. It was robotic, quick, worthless though. Absolutely worthless. And now I feel like now that I've toned back a little bit, I appreciate it more. Now that it fills a sort of secondary role, I don't take as many pictures per year, but I think I take the pictures that I do produce. I'm still producing at my best much better images than I ever did than shooting hundreds of thousands each year. And I'm kind of just coming back from a very unhealthy relationship with photography and a very unhealthy obsession. I mean, it was all I would think about all the time. And it was ridiculous. And I was absolutely obsessed. And now I'm just trying to find out where it kind of fills in my life. And I think this is sort of a nicer middle ground.
So you're trying to get a balance with it all, presumably.
Yeah, and I think it'll serve me at least, and it has for images. And I'm definitely not as obsessed as I used to be, and I can see the drawbacks in that. Like there's a lot of images that I want to get, but I'm honestly just not willing to put the time in, and that's a little sad to me. I know that I could definitely be a bit more efficient, a bit more effective. There's a lot of images I probably don't get because of my new relationship with photography and with this craft, but
photography, it's about enjoyment, right? I mean, it's not about.
I'm happier and I love it.
Yeah, and that is the best place to be, in my opinion.
Yeah,
and that's when you're going to produce your best work as well, surely.
Yeah, I went through a similar situation too, and the issue I had too when I was like in this complete obsession, it was expectation. I'd have all these expectations on myself and I wasn't enjoying it. I got to get out at this time and this needs to happen. And you're trying to manifest a situation. You're trying to manifest the shot and you can't manifest it. You have to let the shot come to you. And that was the biggest lesson I've learned. And to your point, Caleb, too, I shoot less now, but I enjoy it more because I'm out there and whatever comes across the lens, I let it happen versus trying to force something by being out there 24/7. And it's just, you don't enjoy it. Yeah.
No, it's funny how we're all very similar, actually, because I will go out and I always got something in my mind. Oh, that would be nice if that happened. But I tend to shoot what I come across now rather than going out with those expectations of this is what I want. I will just let stuff happen. and you'll come back with what you come back with. And I think that's, if you're a bit more relaxed about things in that way, you allow yourself to enjoy it a hell of a lot more.
Yeah,
because
you can
you
still
enjoy
plan, but you can't manifest the shot.
No, I mean, you can't make
Yeah.
things do what you want them to do all the time, can you? I mean, it's just not possible.
A good
They're
thing that
wild
I've
creatures.
found that's sort of still remained a little bit effective is I've been thinking about this. Like when I go out, maybe I won't go out so much. I mean, I won't spend so much time in the field. Maybe it's just like an hour in the morning or an hour in the evening. But when I'm there, if I give 150%, I feel as though that makes all the difference for me. Because I'll notice that I'll kind of slack off in the field. I'll have this op, but I'm not going to jump in the water, and I'm not going to lay in the mud for a long period of time. So I kind of make a deal with myself. Like, I'm going to go out. I'm going to give 150%. I'm going to give my absolute all for this little period of time. And honestly, I find that the shorter periods of time, full devotion, it works. That's all I need.
Yeah, it's like a lot of things in life, isn't it? If you give them those, your short amounts of attention, but focused, the results are, better than being out for hours and hours and hours and not really concentrating on things. So
You're training your mind. As you grow, you're creating new mental pathways, and a little bit of it sticks with you. Doing the same thing again and again with no real difference or nothing to attach to, you're not going to remember it. It's those it's those amazing small moments here and there that stick with you. And I feel like you can almost hijack that and use it to increase your effectiveness.
Yeah, because you're not going to come away with an award-winning shot every time. I mean, that's just not possible. I mean, in fact, how many images do you think you take a year that you're really happy with?
Maybe 10, maybe 12.
Yeah,
probably I would say an image a month is fair. And then probably a body of maybe 200 more that I'm like, those are kind of cool, and I'm glad I have them to incite those frames because they're kind of surrounding that frame, or maybe like a background scene or another angle. But yeah, maybe 10 and 12. I actually wouldn't care if they were burned up in a house fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you know, I like asking that question because the answer is very similar from photographers that produce
that's about right.
exceptional work, like I've seen on your Instagram feed, is they all say somewhere between 8 and 15 shots a year, most of them. So it's interesting because I think you also have this process of being very, very selective, with your, and very self-critical of your own work. And I think, if you producing, we've all got these backup images, but I'm the same. I mean, I just think, well, if I produce half a dozen in a year, I'm happy, of things that I'm really, really pleased with. So it's interesting. Yeah. So what's the next trip you've got planned? What's coming up next?
Interestingly, I have 0 trips planned as of right now. And most of the time it's like that. I do a lot of spontaneous things. I do a lot of trips kind of like last minute. But right now I'm entering a new situation. I'm trying to figure that out. I vowed that Alaska would be the last big thing I plan. I've got some workshops and stuff coming up and throughout the year, but nothing, no real personal trips. I'm probably going to maybe chill out for the rest of the year, and then maybe New Year's do something. I have a lot of places I want to go to, but I've done a good bit in the last little bit, and I have a lot of things to figure out. And I'll try to shoot local and see if I can.
Are you full time in photography, Caleb?
I'm not full time. I'm part time right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Hopefully full time one day, but I just haven't put the time in, frankly.
Yeah. It's a tough gig, isn't it?
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah.
But great if you can do it. Where's the best place for people to find your work and reach out to you?
I've got an Instagram, I've got a website. Both are wonderful. I will Let's see. Yeah, and the website's tagged on Instagram. I don't actually remember what it is because I'm a wonderful business owner.
What's your
CalebGHoover.com.
Instagram?
That's it.
Yeah.
Caleb
What's your
Hoover.
Instagram handle?
And my Instagram is calebg.hoover.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
And along when I'm stuck to it. So
yeah. We'll put links obviously in the show notes to the website and your Instagram account so people can look you up. But Caleb, thanks so much for coming on. It's been a really interesting discussion. You know, the wide angle stuff is just something I think that we're all pretty guilty of. Well, not you, Josh. I know you do wide angle quite a lot, but most of us are guilty of not exploring enough. And I put myself in that category. So thank you for the inspiration for me to crack out the wide angle lens a bit more often. And
it's an absolute pleasure to talk about it. Not many people to talk about these things with.
No, they don't actually. No, it's wide angle in wildlife photography isn't really talked about very much. So thanks very much for coming on and and sharing your thoughts. And everybody go on and have a look at Caleb's Instagram feed because it's full of amazing stuff. I'm just sat here looking at a rail in a mangrove swamp, which I think is just an incredible image.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. No. So go and have a look. Go and have a look at Caleb's Instagram feed, and drink in the images, people, and see what wide angle can do. So
thank you guys.
Thanks for coming on, and thanks, Josh, again for inviting Caleb on because it was your choice. And
I've been following his stuff for years, and this is the first time we've ever met. Actually, I've been following him on social media, and again, the images are just amazing. So please, for the folks who are listening, check out his Instagram account and his website. Yeah, do. Because some amazing and very inspirational stuff on there. So anyway, thanks everybody for listening. Hope you've enjoyed that, and we'll see you all again next time. You have been listening to the Wildlife Photography Podcast. If you have enjoyed the content, then please help us to spread the word by sharing a link on your social media platforms, giving us a like, and leaving us a comment. See you all again next time.